Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV time once again for the Broom Wagon. A lot to cover, not a lot of races, but we have a few, and of course the Musette Musings, some dance moves, believe it or not. You don't often say that with cyclists, but with Mark Cavendish, anything's possible. And of course, the tweet of the week, all that coming up on the Broom Wagon. All right, everybody, let's get right into this week's action. First up, no more Criterium International. Criterium International, if you're not familiar with this stage race, been around for quite a while. It's a springtime race. It's a mini Tour de France, a time trial, a flat stage for the sprinters, and a mountain stage for the climbers, and prestigious event. Jens Voigt, I believe, has the record amount of wins. And Criterium International, it's in the classic season, so in all honesty, people not really thinking about a stage race that much except to get ready for the classics. And it's had a hard time finding not only a location on the calendar, but also a location period somewhere in Europe where to hold it. And it's bounced all over France, from the Côte d'Azur up to the Ardennes, on the border with Belgium, and finally its last resting place, the island of Corsica. It was moved down there in anticipation of the Grand Depart of the Tour de France a few years ago, and found a pretty solid home there and was popular. And a lot of riders, including Chris Froome, that wanted to preview the first few stages of that Tour de France that started in Corsica, used Criterium International to familiarize himself with the roads. And since then, it's had a very tough time attracting international teams and racers, and now will vanish. No money for the Crit International again, and I did that race a number of times, so it's kind of sad to see it go off the calendar, but it's perfectly understandable. And there's no shortage of races all over the world for the rest of the year, and the owners and organizers of Criterium International, ASO, have plenty of new events that they organize all over the globe. And so other races that have a bigger budget have a better chance of attracting the international teams and guaranteeing their longevity. So sad to see Criterium International go, but plenty of other races. Also, Tour of Rwanda. And I don't know if anybody's seen some of the footage of the Tour of Rwanda, of the insane crowds. And maybe the next time the UCI wants to move the World Championships to somewhere where there's actually spectators, they could do a lot worse than the Tour of Rwanda. It's it's absolutely mayhem. Let's take a look at this. It's just people everywhere coming out to see their heroes and their local riders, and it's just really delightful to watch the crowds. And that's one of the best things about bike racing, is it doesn't cost any money, and you can come out and watch, and just the frenzy. Man, I love it. I love it. I love when people are introduced to our sport and they take it to heart. And for people, myself included, that cannot afford an automobile at some point in their life, the bicycle is the most fantastic means of transportation. And for me, that's what it has always meant. So I hope it continues all over the world, its development. And a place like Rwanda is a perfect place for a bike race and riding bikes. So best of luck to everybody that races in the Tour of Rwanda, and maybe one of these days we'll get to cover that for television. So love the Tour of Rwanda. In the dancing on the pedal stakes, maybe the most proficient is Mark Cavendish. Here's a clip of Mark at the Ghent 6 Days doing, I believe, the YMCA and cutting a rug, dancing on the floorboards. You know, we did not know that Alberto Contador could sing a couple of videos ago. But it's great to know that Mark Cavendish is a really good dancer. Apparently, though, he grew up as a competitive ballroom dancer. His mom had a dance studio, and Mark was one of the best, I would imagine, on the Isle of Man. By his own admission, won a lot of competitions. Lots of trophies in the Cavendish trophy room, not just in cycling, but also in barroom dancing. Man, Mark Cavendish looks great as a ballroom dancer as a kid, so pretty impressive. Who knew? Also on the Broom Wagon, we're doing it rather than cover the races, the kit of the week. Not a lot have been released. I've done Sky and Cannondale so far. They're out for next year, 2017's kit. And next up, Movistar. Very sharp jerseys. Always appreciated how clean the lines were. Dark blue, very snappy navy blue background, and a big green M. For Movistar, they've enlarged the M a little bit, so more green highlights than last year, but still very clean, very sharp. The clothing manufacturer is a Scottish company, actually, called Endura, and they have developed a number of high-tech materials, but also they've spent quite a bit of time in the wind tunnel developing a more aerodynamic kit for the riders, and like I said, very sharp, very clean fabrics, very technically advanced, and they've been in the Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One wind tunnel and have been able to reduce a lot of the aerodynamic drag through extensive testing there. So if you wonder why the Movistar guys are so fast, maybe their Endura kit has something to do with it. All right, everybody. So far, kit-wise, Sky, Cannondale, Movistar. I'm going to have to go with Movistar as my favorite so far. And hopefully the teams will release those in the coming days. At least we need one more team before next week to to release what their kit's going to look like next year. All right, everybody. Up next, the Musette Musings. First up in the Musette Musings, Brazil. 3 riders, same team, positive for the same drug, Sira, a form of EPO apparently, Ramiro Rincon Diaz, Joao Marcelo Pereira Gaspar, and another rider previously, Kleber da Silva Ramos, Sira, EPO basically. Same team, Funvik Soul Cycles, Carrefour. Might want to change the Soul Cycles to Soulless Doper Cycles. Just kidding, I'm sure they have a soul. But anyways, this to me is a pretty graphic example of systematic doping within the same team. And 3 different riders, same team, same period of time. It's virtually impossible that they are acting alone, have rogue doctors, each one of them a different doctor, or a different pharmacist, or a different email, website purchase of Sira. To me, this smacks of a systematic doping program within the Funvik Soul Cycles team. This is what the UCI has said about it. The UCI will refer the matter to the disciplinary commission, which will render a decision in due course. The penalty on a team with 3 positive riders in a 12-month period can be anywhere from 15 days to 2 years, and I hope that the UCI imposes a severe penalty on this team, which they did not do in the case of Astana recently. Astana, 2 riders, Maxime and Valentin Iglinski, and 3 riders on the amateur Astana squad, all positive for drugs in a short period of time. and the UCI imposed nothing on the team, no sanction, no penalty, and the Astana squad was allowed to move forward and carry on. And I hope that I was very critical of that decision at the time, and I hope that Brian Cookson will fulfill the promise he made when he was elected to restore the credibility of cycling as best of his ability. And that was his platform. That's what he ran on. That's why he was elected. And it'll be very interesting to see what sanction is imposed by the UCI in this case. To me, it's obvious. It's an obvious case of a team's decision to cheat with drugs. And I'm going to follow this very closely and get back to you on the UCI when they decide what sanction, how many weeks or months or even years the team will be out of the sport. But I'm hoping for the maximum. And we shall see. It's in the UCI's court. Here's another thing the UCI might want to take a look at. Thomas Dekker just released his tell-all biography about what was transpiring on the Rabobank squad when he raced for them. There's a lot of regurgitated information that we've become all too familiar with. But what I'd like to focus on and study for our purposes, this is almost 10 years ago, 2007 Tour de France. He's describing a lot of the nefarious, systematic doping practices of the Rabobank squad. But one is most disturbing to me, and is still a part of professional cycling to this day. I'm going to quote Thomas Dekker. "Every day we use cortisone. The product name is Diprofos. We have a medical certificate. I wouldn't even know what it's for. It's a sham. With cortisone, we can go deeper during the race. And besides, I am nice and thin. I am 68 kilos at 1 meter 88. So 1 meter 88 is a little bit over 6 feet, 68 kilos. Help me with the math on that, but skeletal comes to mind." This is the final quote. "I have never been so thin before." So the TUE program, the therapeutic use exemption, that's the medical certificate that Thomas Dekker is referring to. And until the UCI gets a handle on that, I think you can be rest assured that riders will abuse it. There will always be legitimate asthma sufferers who need salbutamol to treat their asthma, and there's nothing wrong with that to me. But what the UCI needs to do is get a handle on who exactly is eligible for TUEs for asthma and allergies. If you've been a lifelong sufferer of asthma, and I've said this many times before, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to ply your trade at a professional level and not be restricted by your asthma. You should be allowed the salbutamol inhaler. That is the maybe most medically accepted protocol to treat that. That being said, riders that apply for TUE as a PED, performance enhancing drug, have to be discouraged from doing that, and Brian Cookson has to lead in acknowledging that that's a possibility and doing whatever is necessary to prevent that from happening in the future. The TUE system has been in the news recently. I've commented, I think, on the last 4 or 5 BobkeTVs in a row. And this is a further example of exactly what I'm talking about and why I think it's essential that the UCI have 100% transparency in the TUE program. And I'm going to take it a step further. Application. Anybody that applies, it's published. Any that are granted, any TUEs that are approved, and the product and the amount and the timing and all of that should be public knowledge. It should be, they should publish that on their website. And I'm going to take it a step further. If you apply for a TUE, it's because you are unwell, that you need rest and recuperation, and a serious, in some cases, very powerful corticosteroids to recuperate from an asthma attack or from allergies or from bronchitis or from pneumonia or being sick. And you should not be allowed to race during the protocol for recovery. Whatever the medical establishment decides is most appropriate. Once you apply and are approved, you should not be allowed to race for whatever, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, however long it would take a normal person to recuperate from whatever malady it is you are applying for a TUE. So that's another level to assure people what they're seeing in professional cycling is an authentic spectacle of talent and dedication and determination, and not the abuse of a drug program that's in place. And I would also like the riders that are racing clean, that do not apply for a TUE to improve their performance, also be vocal and enable the UCI to have more confidence in sanctioning riders they believe are fraudulently taking advantage of the TUE program. I can sit here all day and pontificate about what I think Brian Cookson should do, but clean athletes have to take a much more forward and vocal stand against the abuse of the TUE program, or it's going to stay percolating under the surface, and we'll have cases like Bradley Wiggins using an incredibly powerful steroid just before the Tour de France, which he won, by the way. So, and that's been on previous BobkeTVs. Don't need to get into that any further, at least at this point. And so the UCI could look at Thomas Dekker's book and modify the program, the TUE program, so that it's much more fair and equitable and understandable and transparent for everybody that follows the sport of cycling. All right, everybody. Enough pontificating. Next up is a tweet of the week. Okay, everybody, the tweet of the week coming to us from Matthew Heyman, Matt Heyman of the Orica Squad Bike Exchange. I almost said Green Edge. Orica Bike Exchange. This is what he had to say. Do I get sick of talking about Paris-Roubaix? No. Typically, Heyman succinctly put, absolutely not. Paris-Roubaix, an incredibly special event, and Matt Heyman, the greatest victory of his career so far, most definitely must be the monument, Paris-Roubaix. I did Paris-Roubaix a number of times in my career. I tried to win each one, was not successful, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Matt had done it 12 or 13 times previously and finally came up with the win. Wow. Anyways, I hope it's a great off-season for Matt Heyman and that he eyes some more success in the classics and maybe adds Tour of Flanders to his Paris-Roubaix win, or maybe Paris-Roubaix again. But anyways, I would have to concur with Matt. The times I get tired of talking about Paris-Roubaix or Tour of Flanders or Milano-San Remo, those times are zero. Great races, and they provide us with a lifetime of stories. And I hope Matt Heyman never gets tired of talking about Paris-Roubaix. All right, everybody, that's it for the Broom Wagon this week. Like I said, you can subscribe very easily. Just go to the BobkeTV icon on your screen, click on that. You'll automatically go to, you'll be subscribing. And buy some t-shirts if you like. Another little icon, click on that. Comments, please comment at your leisure. Let's keep the language nice and tidy. Could be impressionable eyes watching. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and the thumbs up are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot, everybody. Until next time, happy Thanksgiving.